Fake out.
We're here.
You thought you'd have to wait another 30 seconds, but you
I
didn't.
did. That was
Right.
cool. Yes. It's like a nice surprise. We're here like 25 seconds early
We call
or
those
5 seconds
special
late.
effects.
Yes. How's
Um,
it going, Gina? What are we doing here? I don't even know what's happening.
it's hashtag Trick It Too. We jump on here
Cool.
every day, every weekday at 2 p.m. Central. And we take you on a virtual adventure through the pages of Boy's life. Today is going to be good. Today is going to be kind of funny, actually. We know you guys are big fans of humor, so luckily Aaron has done a ton of work to get some of the funniest parts of the magazine dusted off for us. Is that right, Aaron?
That is correct, Gina. One of the most popular parts of Boys Life magazine is the comics. And I've always said that one of the reasons why I like working at Boys Life so much is because I have about the maturity level and the mentality of our readers, the same thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
also like the comics. It's one of my favorite parts. So we've kind of struggled. We've been doing Trek It 2 now for 6 or 7 weeks. And we haven't really talked about the comics because it's hard to how do you read comics on the air? But I think we've come up with a way that would make the comics, to convey kind of the coolness and the humor of the comics, but also have it work in a Trek and 2 environment. And I think it's also very appropriate for what we've got planned next week as well.
Yes. So I can't wait to see what you got together. But what do you mean? How's it tying into what's going on next week?
So next week, there's a really exciting, cool event coming up on at the same time at the Trek It 2 time. It is called Art O Re, Gina, not Campery, Art O Re. And it is for basically anyone who likes art, anyone who thinks they don't like art and is ready to be proven wrong, any Boy Scout who is interested in working on the Art Merit Badge, any Boy Scout who has already earned the Art Merit Badge, any Cub Scout who thinks they might or might not like art. It is just a big week-long artery featuring some of these same artists that we're going to read today. And we're going to talk about different. Next week, we're going to go over, I believe it's requirement 4 of the Art Merit Badge. And if you watch along, if you follow along, you could go a really long ways towards satisfying requirement number 4. Take that to your local merit badge counselor, and you will be one step ahead of the rest of the group to earning that merit badge. And even if you're not into that kind of thing, I think it's really fun. It's really cool. Anybody who likes to draw or wants to know how art is made, I think will enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the first day too, you hooked us up with a guy who's like he's not been a merit badge counselor, but he's really an expert in art appreciation and he teaches art lessons, right? So it'd be the perfect way to kick off getting your head around why the art merit badge is cool and why this is worth your time, right?
Yeah, if you think, art is not for me, I don't get it, I don't see what the big deal is, I would just say watch Monday and we're going to talk to Luke. And after you talk to him, if you still feel that way, okay, fine. But I don't think you will feel that way. I think that it's going to be a really good discussion about how art can be really cool for everybody.
And then we're going to kick it off after we have Luke on with Joey Ellis, who's going to show us not only how he animates, which is on a computer, and if you have Photoshop, you can kind of try to tinker along with him. But he's also going to sketch something with, I think, a pencil afterwards, just in case your computer doesn't have Photoshop on it. Still worthwhile to watch because computer sketches are one of the ways you can meet part of that requirement 4, I think you mentioned. So it
Yeah.
ties in really well with what we're doing today because Joey Ellis actually is an illustrator for one of our comics. I think we're looking at it. We're about to find
Yes.
out. I'll be able to tell you if
Yes.
we are.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
Um,
the comic section of Boys Life magazine, Gina, is one of the most popular things we do. And what's kind of funny is that we get every year or so we get a handful of calls or emails or I say complaints from kids who are like, "Why did you get rid of the comics?" And what's happened is they've gone from Cub Scouts to Scouts BSA, and so they're now getting the older demographic version of the magazine, which doesn't include as many comics. It has some, but not all of them. And they always think, "Oh, you got rid of the comics. Where'd they go?" Well, we didn't get rid of them. We still have them. And we're going to talk about that today. So this is great for, I think, Cub Scout age kids who like the comics already are going to get those. And if you're older, what a great opportunity now to sort of relive your Cub Scout days when you used to get all those cool comics. We're going to go over them here today, here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, that's right. We've actually got Connor from Wyandotte, Michigan. We have Owen on. We've got Pack 61 in Claymont, Delaware. Hello, you guys. We have Killian from Pack 36. We've got Rob on again. He's ready for us to make him laugh. If anybody can make you laugh, Rob, it's Aaron, I think. Pack 118's in the house. We've got a wolf scout in the house, and he loves art, so that's pretty cool. And they wanted to call you out, Aaron. What's a Boy Scout?
Oh, that is a really good question. I should say a Scouts BSA member, right?
That's right.
Yes,
Aaron's
that's exactly
really
right.
old, okay? He's stuck in his ways. He's been using these words for a long time, okay?
Old habits are hard to break for old people
I
like
am
me.
so guilty. Everyone is guilty of that. We say Boy Scouts when we're thinking of the boys who are Scouts and older. But it's a lot
Yes,
easier when you're thinking of the girls who are Scouts and older to be like, oh, yeah, Scouts BSA.
right,
It's
right.
just
We're
in
just
our
talking
heads.
about all Scouts who are in the program for older kids, basically. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, Aaron, I can't wait to see what you're about to show us. I
Yes.
can't wait to
So,
laugh.
yes. Well,
It's
get
been
ready.
so long since we've laughed on Trek
Yes.
It
Well, get ready because some hilarity is coming your way. So the comics in Boys Life magazine are sort of split up by age and by scout program. So we've recently, just in the last couple of years, just brand new added a comic called Lion Pride, and it is for Lion Scouts. Obviously, we didn't have this until just a few years ago, Gina, because obviously Lion Scouts didn't exist. And every comic is aimed toward individuals in that age group, but I think they can be enjoyed by individuals of any age group. So, Lion Pride would be made for the youngest kids, but as you said, I'm old and I like it. So, what I've done is I've broken it down. It's kind of hard to read the whole thing like this. So, we're going to break it down panel by panel, Gina. Starting
Okay.
with Lion Pride panel number 1, you can see that this comic is called Sand Crashly. Sandcastles are fun to build up and knock down, says our little hippopotamus friend there. And our little lion, I'm not sure if it's an alligator or a crocodile, says, knock down? I don't think so, because he doesn't want anyone to knock down his sandcastle. And moving on to the next frame, he says, no one is going to knock down my sandcastle. However, as you can see, Gina, there's a wave there coming from the water that's got other ideas. What's going to happen with his sandcastle? Immediately, we've got this dramatic tension. Is he going to be able to save his sandcastle or not? In the next frame, you will see him trying to avoid. He picks up the sandcastle up out of the air as the wave crashes at his feet. And then in the next frame, you'll see he is basically surrounded by water and by waves on into even the next frame. He's doing his best to keep away the sandcastle from this mean wave that is coming towards him. And eventually he says, like I said, no one is going to knock down my sandcastle. And as you see, it would appear that he has won this battle as the wave sadly looks like he has been defeated. However, with every good comic, there's a twist. He forgot about the hole he had dug, Gina, and he fell. He dropped his sandcastle. And as you see, in the final frame, the only thing that can knock down his wave, no one can knock it down except for him. And so the humor, first of all, is awesome. And,
It's overwhelming.
it just shows guys, be careful. When you think you've won the battle against the wave with your sandcastle, up very next, you might just trip and fall yourself and drop your sandcastle, and there it goes right there, just like that.
That's hilarious. It shows
Yes,
you
it
never
is.
to just assume, the day that just assume that you took care of the issue and
And
whatever.
Lion Pride is written
Speaking of,
by Joey Ellis, Gina. Joey Ellis
that's what I was
is
going
the
to say.
illustrator of Lion Pride. Yes.
I was
Yes.
laughing so hard I'm choking.
Well,
Let's see. I'm
as Gina
prepared with some water.
recovers, I will tell folks that Joey Ellis is the illustrator and the writer behind Lion Pride, and he's going to be with us. He's one of the guys with us next week, right?
He's on Monday. He's the guy I was just talking about.
We are starting it off
Speaking
with
of
a bang
making
on Monday.
assumptions, I have to correct myself on something. Earlier, I think I mentioned that a Wolf Scout was tuned in, and I said that Wolf Scout was a he. I got caught. Of course, that Wolf
Wow,
Scout is a she.
Gina,
Right. I
why
am
would
so
you assume
sorry.
that it's a he? Why would you
I
assume
don't
that?
know. As you'll see in these comics that represent, Cub Scouts, some of them Cub Scouts, there's plenty of girls. So I do apologize and also think that's pretty cool. So
It's very cool. We love it when all the boys and girls who watch, we love them all. We thank you all for watching, and we thank you all for being scouts.
Eric
Our next
says you can
comic,
call that castle a crashel. Okay. Pretty funny.
oh, that's what you call it?
That's what he's saying. Like, it's not just a castle, it's a crashel.
Oh, I see. Yes, right, right. Got it. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Typical Eric. Am I right, Gina? Our
Typical.
next comic is called Tiger's Adventures. As we go up one grade, I remember when my son was a tiger cub. It seems like a long time ago because it was. And with the Tiger's Adventures, we've got in the first frame. Well, there's our hero right there. And in the first frame, you've got a conversation. Speaking of girls, right there. Hey, Abby, did you see a ding bong ker splash ball go by here? No, I don't think so, but I can help you look. Thanks. And in the next frame, he says, well, what does it look like, Iggy? Well, it's just a normal looking ting bong ker splash ball. And then Abby says, well, just pretend I've never seen one. I don't think she really knows what he's talking about. So in the next frame, he describes that it's round and bouncy. It's yellow with spots, orange with stripes, and has and in the next frame, we see that Abby has found it, a green stripe around it. That's it. Thanks, Abby. But Iggy, why does it have such a strange name? And in the next frame, Iggy says, watch. You're about to find out why we call it that. Oh, I see. You see, in the last frame, ting boing ker splash. That's why it's called a ting boing ker splash ball. And at the end, they found their ball. Everyone's happy. Everyone lives happily ever after. The Tiger's Adventure comic is written by Mike Adair, a longtime contributor to Boys Life magazine. He also does a lot of the little smaller spot illustrations that you will see here and there in Boys Life magazine. A very talented artist. I can't hear you, Gina, but I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm
Maybe
sorry because I muted myself.
Oh, okay.
I was afraid my dog was going to bark.
Well, the mute button works, so that's good.
Success. I was just gonna say that was pretty funny, and also let's just say it's a cute comic. I like those
Yeah.
guys; they're cute.
And what you just saw there, real quick, if our director could show it up again, I thought it might be fun to show our readers what a rough draft of these comics looks like when we first get them. This is a different issue, but when the artists first submit comics to the Boys Life editors, they come in a rough draft sketch like this. And at
Ooh.
this point in time, yeah, obviously, it doesn't start off immediately with that sleek color finish that you see in the pages of Boys Life. What you get is a rough draft like this. And that's something that we'll talk about tomorrow during Artery, I believe, the idea of the rough draft, the rough sketch, the pencil sketch, if you will. Just to show it, even these most talented artists don't start off with just a complete finished product. It takes, depends on their schedule, several days, maybe weeks before they get to that final product. It always starts off as a rough draft like this. I just thought that was kind of an interesting kind of behind the scenes.
It is because it takes a lot of work. So you want to put in, it's kind of like, you want to have an editor make sure that everything is good to go, ready for print before you put all that effort into making it colorful and beautiful. And that's another good point. These illustrators have multiple talents. That looked like it was sketched maybe even with a pencil or something. But
yes, exactly.
I think most of them end up using a computer to generate the comics.
Certainly the final version, absolutely, yeah. And it's easier to make changes, like you say, in that earlier process than it is if you try to make changes towards the end when you've got all the color in there and everything like that. It becomes much more difficult.
Yeah, that's cool.
Our next comic is Wolfgang. It is aimed at Wolf Scouts, and this is an interesting comic. It is one frame only. So I thought this is kind of interesting, Gina, because not every comic has multiple frames. Sometimes our comics will choose to tell a story with simply one frame. And if I could remind our viewers that this comic is from the June July issue of Boys Life magazine 2020, and so the illustrator here, Daryl Collins, has come up with an idea for a July 4th parade. Basically, it's called Pac 9 Salutes the Fourth at Wolfington City Hall. And you notice the sign up there on the top left. It says, "We want you, Pac 9 Wolves." And the banner they're carrying says, "Pac 9 Salute to the Fourth." And you can see on the parade float, they've got a demonstration for knot tying, a paper airplane demonstration, and the kind of the funny one is the bubble blowing demonstration, which I don't think that's an official Cub Scout activity, but I wish that it was. I like it.
It's funny, yeah.
Yes, and you'll see they've got a tuba player down there who is just playing his heart out, and the guy right behind him is like, "Ooh, maybe it doesn't
Too
sound super
loud.
great, but that's okay." It's the spirit that counts, Gina. And I like sometimes our illustrators will focus. A lot of times you see this around Christmas. They will have a Christmas themed illustration, and Daryl, in this situation, has chosen a patriotic themed July 4th themed comic. And
I
again, I
love
think
it.
it's interesting how he can tell an entire story in just one frame. That is, that's a part of the art that goes into making comics, right? He's told an entire
Right.
story without multiple frames in this one.
I like it too because you can look at it for a very long time and start focusing in on some details.
Yes.
As a kid, especially, I liked that kind of a comic.
I absolutely do too. I love to look at all the people in the stands, and it looks like the one guy looks kind of grouchy there, right in the middle. You see the kind of the grouchy looking thing. He's maybe having a bad day or something like that. There's all kinds of funny, almost little like Easter egg things. Look at the
Yeah.
little bird standing underneath the sign. He's pretty cute. So yeah,
Yes.
there's lots of cool things like that.
That's a wolf world right there. The adults are wolves as well, it seems, I think, or
Yes,
at least they're dog people of kinds. They're
yes,
a
exactly.
friendly dog people. Now, I wanted to say this one goes out to our wolf that we were referencing earlier, right? Or who's watching. I think her name is Anne, and maybe Annie. You're welcome to correct me. It's a little hard, I know, when I'm only reading it, but I think it's Anne. So,
Hmm.
um, she likes our jokes, and she said that she's been a loyal reader of Tiger Adventures since 2001. Killian says these are funny. Thank you, Killian.
Thank you,
That's what we
Kelly. I
wanted to hear.
appreciate that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so cool. And hello to Brian. I think he just tuned in. So, and Xavier,
Cool.
Xavier was late, but of course he tuned in. No worries,
Of course
Xavier.
you
We've
did.
got some fun stuff
We
today.
for, we forgive you, Xavier. It's fine. So, as a quick reminder, you can read all these comics in the online version of the Boys Life app, which is free right now to all readers or non-readers. If you never read Boys Life
Yeah,
before, if you never see these comics, go to the app, download it, and you can read the comics. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm reading them on my iPad. You can all
yep.
do the same thing. This is not
And
some
it could
sort of
be a
special access VIP. Anybody can do this.
free. This would be a
Yep.
great thing to, if you can't read, your parents could read this to you. And if you can read and you have little siblings, the comics are a great one to read for them and show them the picture. They'll get a kick out of it.
Yes, and I would also like to say, Gina, to all the parents out there, you like you mentioned reading, which is great. Comics is a great way to introduce young readers to reading. Part of the boys' life, the goal of our magazine is to get kids to read. Right? Studies
Right.
show that kids who read do better in school. My kids hate to read in general,
Really?
but they like to read comics. And so, reading comics, I mean, it's still reading. I mean, obviously there's illustrations, there's still art that goes into it, but it is still reading. So I would say, if you're a parent, don't resist the comic. Don't poo-poo the comic. Reading
Yeah.
comics is still a good gateway into reading longer stories in Boys Life magazine.
There's educational value to these, even the ones that seem like maybe there isn't. We have made sure that it's something that your kids can read. It's on their reading level, and you make a
and
good
and,
point here.
and some of them as you're going to see are also tied into some scout themes. We're going to get to those in a second.
Cool.
Our next comic is called The Bear Bunch, Gina, and it is obviously we've now gotten to the Bear Scout age. And in
Right.
this particular, so this is a group. The other one was a group of wolves. Here we have a pack of bears, if you will. And in the
Mm-hmm.
first frame, we've got Papa Bear. I think that is. We'll call him Papa Bear.
Sure.
Pinecone and Ivy. Today we're going to meet a very special animal. Sweet. Yay. And then one of them says, "Is it a unicorn? I love unicorns." And Papa says, no, it's not a unicorn. And then so the other one says, wait, is it a T-Rex? They are so cool. And then he says, nope, it's not a T-Rex. And then we skip ahead to the very last frame. That's probably my fault, Gina. Oh, no, it's okay. Is it a T-Rex? They're so cool. And nope, it's actually a T-Rex is really rare. This is correct. And then in the end, we see it's actually a North American blue-spotted, red-tailed, invisible fish. But the kids
What
see
a
the kids here,
trick.
they're too smart. They know. Seriously, nice
That's
try.
a trick.
He's got an empty fish tank there, Gina, and he's trying to tell them there's an invisible fish in there, but there's really not. We all know that that is indeed a
You
trick.
can't get you definitely can't get anything past bears, right?
You got to get up awful early in the morning to trick Pinecone and Ivy. They are not going to
Right.
fall for it. The Bear Bunch is illustrated by Scott Nickel, Gina, who has done a good job on this comic for a long time for us, and we appreciate his work very much. We are now entering the Weebelows stage of our comics, Gina, with Weebelows Woody. And Weebelows Woody has been with us for a long time. And on this one, you've got a couple of Scouts BSA members, a boy and a girl. And in the top frame, they say this nature trail is the best. I totally agree. You've got friendly frogs. I don't know if you can see the frogs kind of behind my face there, Gina. There's friendly frogs. And the next frame, he says, oh, there's buzzing bees. Yeah, and see the smiling squirrels down there in the bottom right. But in the last frame, you get to Stinky, and they've run into a skunk at the end of their trail. Now, fortunately, Gina, he appears to be a friendly skunk. He's saying hello. But what we've got here is the classic tale of a nature hike when you run into a stinky animal. Thankfully, in Weebelow's Woody, the stinky animal is still our friend. And he's just a skunk. He's just a friendly skunk saying hello, is all. This is by Mike Moran. That's how it ends. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Oh, thank goodness. So we don't really know what happened next, and I don't think we want to.
Well, they're friends. They became friends. They just lived happily ever after. I can just tell you that.
That's a sweet one.
Yes, yes. That is Weebelow's Woody, as I said, illustrated by Mike Moran. And as you mentioned, Gina, we have added.
Interpreting that the skunk's like, hello, but he might be like, hello.
No, he's more like, hello. He's friendly. He's totally fine and totally cool. And he's definitely not going to spray them with his stinky spray.
I don't know. You guys watching, tell us what you think.
So our next comic is, speaking of girls, it used to just be Dink and Duff, Gina, but now it's called Dink and Duff and Desi because we have Girl Scouts BSA members now, so we wanted to add a girl into this comic. And
yes.
this one, as you can see, is very, very Cub Scout themed. They're even wearing their Cub Scout uniforms. And I will tell you at the end which part of the Scout oath this one belongs to, but in the first frame, you'll see them say, be brave, Scouts. We're on an important mission. And they want to know, will we see scary squids in the second frame? And then in the third frame, they say, or eerie eels, maybe? And then in the final frame, we realize, nope, we're just going to see smiling sharks. Do we have to help floss them too? Looks a little nervous about the floss.
That's a lot of teeth.
The theme to this comic, Gina, is a scout is brave. And at the very end, we see that scouts can face danger even when they are afraid. They have the courage to stand up for what they think is right. So this is one of those comics where we do incorporate the Boy Scout or the Cub Scout themes, or actually, and the Boy Scout themes in this case. The Scout is brave, and it's funny and it's cool and it's entertaining, but you can maybe learn a little something from it.
Yeah, so you should brush a shark's teeth.
Absolutely, if it's a friendly shark like this.
If it's talking.
Brush away, yes. If it jumps out of the water and smiles at you, just brush away.
Okay, wow.
This comic is also by Scott Nickel, again, who does a good job for us.
He does a really good job. He does a lot of comics within the Think and Grin section, and they're pretty funny.
Yes. Speaking of Scout themes, Gina, our next one is Peewee. And Peewee is kind of a boy's life staple. He's been around for a long time. Peewee Harris. And in this comic, Peewee looks at scuba diving. And in our first frame, we see Peewee underwater in his scuba gear, kind of a pirate themed scuba gear, it looks like. And he says,
Cool.
Peewee Harris, first scuba diving pirate here, looking for a good spot to hide his treasure. And then in the next frame, we see that he has found the perfect spot. He's dropping off his buried treasure next to an octopus and an eel and maybe a shark up there, it looks like, and some sort of crab or something like that. And in the next frame, we realize, Gina, that this was his imagination. He's really just in a swimming
Uh,
pool. Okay, guys, I hit a quarter somewhere in the pool. The first one to find it, and then his friend says, gets it? In the last frame, we see, no, you don't get it. You get to hide it next. So they're playing a game where
he's not
one
just
person
giving
hides.
away money.
Exactly, yes. They're playing a game where one person hides a quarter at the bottom of the pool. Everybody goes down and tries to find it, and whoever finds it doesn't keep it, but they hide it for the next person to then go find it. But when you use your imagination, you're basically like a scuba diver, see?
Now, could you go back to the shark? I'm sorry to make it. Go back to the picture where you can see all the animals. Yeah. So now, is that a shark that you would brush the teeth of?
Yeah, I think he's fine. Yeah, he's just checking out Pee-wee, and yeah, I think it's fine. If
Okay,
he,
Aaron says
yeah,
it. Only cartoon sharks are you allowed to
just
brush the teeth.
yes, exactly. It's just a comic, Gina. It's not
Yeah.
real.
Okay.
It's just a comic. So there's no reason to
I have
contemplate.
been worried ever since you said that, thinking like, oh no, the next time I go to the ocean, it's my duty to brush a shark's teeth. But luckily, you were joking. You
Gina,
should write a comic.
yeah. So here's another rough draft of what Pee-wee looks like in the pencil stage. By the way, again, this is the previous month's issue, but again, you see the process that it goes through before it gets approved by a team of the Boys Life editors. They can easily make changes and tweak things at this point that they can't make once they get to the full color version. Our last comic of the day, Gina, is the one you've all been waiting for. It's the Wacky Adventures of Pedro. And whenever I go out as a representative of Boys Life magazine, whenever I meet young Cub Scouts, they almost always ask me about Pedro and the boss. Where's Pedro? Where's the boss? Is the boss really that mean? And whatever. Because Pedro, again, talk about history. Pedro has a long history with Boys Life magazine. Now, this illustrator, Stephen Gilpin, took over the mantle of the Pedro comic just a few years ago. He's not the same guy that's been drawing it. If you go through the archives of Boys Life, you'll find Pedro way back, many decades ago. Pedro's been in Boys Life. Stephen Gilpin is just the most recent illustrator, artist, if you will, to bring Pedro to life every month in Boys Life magazine. And in this one, in the first frame, you'll see that Pedro is leading the gang on a campout. And he says, all right, gang, the theme for this campout is thriftiness. I've come up with all kinds of ideas for how we can camp out in a thrifty way. Do you know what thrifty means, Gina?
Smart with your money.
Exactly. Being smart and responsible with your money. Exactly. And so Pedro's got some ideas here on how to camp out in a thrifty way. Now, do you think anything could go wrong here?
No, Pedro. I know Pedro personally. Well, thoroughly, and I think that he knows what to do.
He's very responsible. So let's just see how this is going to go. I'm already a little bit nervous to see how it's going to turn out. In the second frame, Pedro points out we've saved money on food by planning to eat what we catch from the stream. I mean, that seems pretty practical, right? Yeah. You can see there's fish right there in the illustration. So it looks like if they're smart about it, they can catch their own dinner. That's fine. In the next frame, Pedro says, we'll go to bed early so we don't need batteries for lanterns, and we'll rig up tarps instead of expensive tents. Seems like reasonable ideas right there,
I love
right?
It. Yeah.
Why spend money on an expensive tent when you can just rig up a tarp, not a tart.
Yeah,
a tarp.
Go to sleep early, get some more sleep. I love that.
Yeah. You don't need your flashlight if you're in bed when it's dark, right? That's totally cool. Yeah. He also points out in the next frame that we've picked a campsite close to home, so we didn't have to use a lot of gasoline to get there. As you can see, they're really not far from their neighborhood, right there, right?
Friendly, yeah.
Very practical. They could probably just walk there. It would take them just a few minutes to walk there, probably. No gasoline in their cars. Now, someone in the next frame, though, has a very, very valid question. Where's the TP, Pedro? He's talking about toilet paper. That is one thing you might not want to skip on, because in the final frame we see Pedro suggesting we'll just use leaves instead of toilet paper. And then one of his friends says, is this poison ivy? You really don't want to use poison ivy for toilet paper.
No.
That's kind of the moral of the story. I'm going to say no
That
matter
was
how
a heavy,
thrifty,
heavy comic.
no matter how thrifty you are, don't use poison ivy for toilet
Good thing they're
paper.
close to home.
Just
Wow.
bring your own toilet paper. Yes, exactly.
That
Yes.
was, that was a journey.
I bet you didn't see that coming, did you?
I did not. I did not know comics could end like that.
Yeah, well, that just shows you what the storytelling capabilities of art, Gina. You
Right.
can do all kinds of things. It's not always just a real simple, here's what happens type thing. There's twists, there's turns, there's intrigue, and then hopefully there's also humor and enjoyment. And,
Right.
and, and Gina, that concludes our tour or virtual trek, if you will, through the comic pages of Boys Life magazine.
I loved it. I thought that was a really fun idea. You did a lot of work on splitting those comics up. Our director, who's behind the scenes, did a lot of work on getting through each of them. And obviously, I did a lot of work sitting here reading the comics along with all of our viewers. So,
Well, I hope you enjoyed it, Gina. And I would just like to remind everyone that you can download the Boys Life app and read those comics along with many, many, many more comics from past issues. If you want to read them in order, maybe go back a year or so and then start there and move forward, because some of them do tell stories. Pedro specifically will occasionally tell a story that continues on between each issue. I think we call that a serial. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. The others are episodic.
Yes, exactly.
Pedro's a little more serialized. So
Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes.
Right. So looking at all of those, we hope that you guys are excited to maybe learn how to draw your own characters next week. Whether you're a Cub Scout, Scouts BSA member, maybe you're not even a Scout, maybe you're a parent, maybe you're younger than Scouts. No matter what, you guys should tune in every day at 2 p.m. Central next week. You won't hear us calling it #TrekIt2. We're going to be calling it Art O Re. Time's the same. But I don't want to say it's going to be better because Trek It 2 is going to resume afterwards, but it's going to be more in depth. And at the end of the week, you are very likely to have 4 or 5 different kinds of sketches to show your merit badge counselor. You can find out everything you need to know at go.boyslife.org/art. That's down at the bottom of the screen. Head to that URL. It'll show you the supplies you need to have for each day. It's going to be really fun.
And you can watch it basically on the Boys Life Facebook page, mainly, right, Gina?
Right. You'll be able to watch it on the Boys Life Facebook page. That's linked. You already know how to get there. You're watching a Facebook Live right now, so you guys aren't going to have any trouble. Just like you're about to watch Trek It 2, join Boys Life Facebook. You'll see the page. You'll see the video pop up at 2, just like normal.
I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to be a part of it, Gina. And I'm excited. The whole idea of the merit badge program, the Scout BSA merit badge program, is to teach kids, Scouts, about different things in the hopes that maybe they'll find something they really like that they never thought about. So I wonder if maybe amongst our viewers, maybe there is an artist out there who just doesn't realize it yet. Maybe he or she doesn't realize yet that they have a real talent and a real passion for art. And that would be really fun. Maybe they can get their start next week with Art O Re, as we call it.
And maybe one day you'll be an illustrator for Boys Life. If you love one of the comics, you could very well be illustrating it one day. So pretty cool.
That would be awesome.
That's how you got your job, right, Aaron? You had always read the features in Boys Life and thought, that'll be me one
day. Not exactly, but we'll go with that story. That's fine. Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I like the way you said that.
I felt that way. I read Boys Life every day and I was like, what if this was digital?
And look what's happened now.
Right. Look, we're here on Facebook Live, and we will be here again on Monday at 2 p.m. for Art O Re. Until then, Aaron, have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too, Gina. Good job.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.